Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roy Potter, and this is the live stream version of the Potter Expositor. And I have a couple of, administrative things I have to cover first so that you'll understand a couple of things that you'll see or what's happening here. The first is that I'm traveling, so my setup is a little different than it would be. Hopefully the sound is okay. I've tried to keep the overmodulation down on the microphone. It is the 1st of May 2018, and I was listening to Unirock last night. I don't know if any of you know who that is. Probably most of you do. And he's kind of an upbeat, has a lot of graphics in his program, music, and it's really kind of fascinating to watch, and he's very good at reporting too. But at any rate, I was listening to that, and he was talking about starting your stream as soon as you hit the go button or the start button, which is something that I don't always do because, well, first of all, I thought it was better to wait a few seconds, but he says, no, don't do that. Start right away. And as a matter of fact, a person wrote on the chat that Roy Potter waits a whole minute before he gets started. And I went, oh, okay. But there is another reason why I do that. It's because my internet connection is so often kind of iffy. I'm never quite sure if it's working the way it needs to. So at any rate, from now on, I'll try not to have that long lapse at the beginning of my live streams before I start talking, because apparently that's pretty annoying. I can see that. I think that would be annoying. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that everybody's going to notice this little thing on my lip and start saying, what's the matter with you and all that. Well, okay. Long time ago, some people know I got hit with some chlorine gas. It was an accident. At any rate, and I got a lot of burns on me from that, my head, my shoulders, arms, stuff like that. So every once in a while I'll have something that'll act up and they need to burn it off. So that's what this is. So hopefully it won't interfere with my discussions this morning. But at the same time, I can hear the complaints too, or people wondering what's going on. So that's what it is. Sometimes I wondered if I should even do the live stream actually. But I thought, you just got to set vanity aside. Hopefully, I'm not so vain that I'll let something like this put a stop to whatever it is I'm doing. So at any rate, let me take a sip of this while we get started. Let me check the chat. It should be on, I do believe. I turned it on, but sometimes, you just never know if it really is or not. Yeah, it looks like it might be working. Let's see. Double check. Okay. Byzantine, don't care about the lip. Come on with the news. I like that. Okay, and you're probably wondering why I called this Chemicals for Nukes. Well, man, there's a lot of stuff swirling right now. All these accusations against Iran trying to build a nuclear weapon as a justification to go to war. We saw, Trump. Let me start back a little further, because you'll have to bear with me here. This really doesn't make any sense when you think about it. Okay. If there are a lot of arguments going on right now about why Trump sent the missiles into Syria, why Israel was bombing with their jets and all of that, and there's the big question has been, actually it's not a question, it's a fact that Assad didn't attack his citizens or even the rebels. Actually, rebels isn't the right word. They're obviously Islamic terrorists. Islamic radicals, that kind of thing. Assad didn't attack them with chemical weapons this last time, and normally when it happens, actually every time that I'm aware of, it's been the Islamic jihadists that have done it. But this time it's very much looking like that there was no actual chemical attack at all, and I think we're all starting to find that out. And this is being totally, well, not totally, but very much kept under wraps by the mainstream media. Why? Because the MSM is the CIA. and the intel community, obviously, who want war for the New World Order and the banking system. Because who started the CIA? The bankers and Wall Street bankers and lawyers. Okay, I think we kind of understand that. So the bankers are always the ones that want the wars. They think they're smarter than everybody else, and et cetera, et cetera. But at any rate, so the excuse was for Trump to fire those missiles into Syria was that Assad used gas again. And then I'm listening to all these arguments going back and forth. Oh, Trump really knew that wasn't happening, but he was after something else, and they were targeting this thing or they were targeting that thing. Whatever, he's still attacking a sovereign country, okay? Bottom line, risking some very significant things there. But now we're finding out that the chemical, and this is where I'm suspicious, okay? They're realizing that the chemical excuse isn't going to hold water. It just can't. Anybody with an ounce of brain power knows that that's totally false. Am I slamming Trump? Well, not exactly, but it sure looks a little strange to me. Well, it goes further. So the chemical thing isn't working. They can't get troops. They can't get things moving with that right now. So all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that I trust Iran. Don't misunderstand me here. I don't trust Iran. Okay, not under the leadership that it has today. Now, as I've said, the U.S. is primarily responsible for the problems that we're having in the Middle East. Totally, us and Britain. And we overthrew the democratically elected president Mossadegh to install the Shah, and most of us should know that. If you don't know that history, you need to find out about it. So, really, who set this whole thing up for this whole antagonistic situation was the United States and its allies, principally Britain. Well, of course you're going to have problems with that once the Shah was overthrown, and then the religious extremists get in there to run the country, etc. And yes, there are problems, but I hasten that, and that's not to say that we shouldn't take care of it, even though we started it. But it's always this perpetual war thing. Well, of course, Netanyahu is under a lot of pressure right now. He's being charged criminally. He may lose his prime ministership. Other things are going on, so he has to divert attention. Frankly, I don't think Trump did any of this to divert attention from Stormy Daniels or any of that business. If anything, that's going to say, yeah, he's a man, he's a man. I don't think he really objects to that. He would object to the idea that he cheated on, that people are accusing him of cheating on Melania. But at any rate, that's another story. Back to the nukes and the chems. So the chemical explanation failed. So now they've got to come out and say, well, the real problem is that Iran used this money, that they were obeying this or they were following this agreement on nuclear weapons, but they had this off-site facility in Syria where they were actually developing the nuclear weapons. What? Jeez. Think about this for a minute. If Syria allowed Iran to build a nuclear facility in Syria, and we knew about it, why would we have to say that we are using the excuse for chemicals to bomb them? Does that make any sense? No. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Do you see what I'm saying here? And we'll talk about it on the chat in a few minutes. I think that should be our major talking point this morning. You can't believe a damn thing anybody says. They want this war so bad that they're willing to make these totally illogical, ridiculous accusations and assumptions. Again, I'm not saying Iran wouldn't want a nuclear weapon. We already are pretty sure that Saudi Arabia has it. We know Israel does. Do I want a bunch of Islamic fanatics to have nuclear weapons? No. But frankly, I don't want a bunch of Zionists to have nuclear weapons either. Do you? I mean, they've got a thing called the Samson for it's total annihilation. No respect for human life. If you don't go along with our political ideology, and they're always saying our right to survive, whatever. Okay, I'm going to make the same point a lot of other people do. Israel isn't necessarily purely Udahite. Zionism isn't a religion, it's a political movement. And calling out Zionism isn't anti-Semitism. Most of us are more Semites than a lot of the people that are over there. That gets into another historical and other arguments I don't want to get into. I'll just mention it in passing. But this ridiculousness that they had to cover their concern for the nuclear thing by making up this chemical attack baloney as a cover story to really go after the nukes. That's totally ridiculous. That's the most asinine, and that's where this argument is going. So I don't know whether there's a nuke facility in Syria or not that Iran runs, but frankly, it makes no sense. I don't think the Russians would have permitted it. Certainly our CIA and our other intelligence apparatus would have known this a long time ago. No, I think they realize the chemical excuse isn't holding water and they need to shift the narrative. And Netanyahu needs this war. He wants to kill your sons and your daughters, and you know how I feel about women in the military, and I'll stick by that forever. I'm not politically correct, I never will be. Because a lot of reasons. Again, I don't want to get on that subject again today, but that's what they're going to do. And I was listening to Steve Pachinik yesterday, the day before, and he was saying a lot of his young people in Israel and in Iran are going to die because of these evil politicians. I'm hoping, just so that you know how I'm looking at this, I'm really beginning to wonder if Trump isn't playing Netanyahu. I don't really think he's a friend of him. I could be wrong on that, but I've got a sneaking suspicion, watching what I am, that it might very well be that President Trump is allowing Bibi to show his true colors. I hope that's what's going on. I don't know. But any idea that they were using a chemical story to cover for the nuke attack, the supposed Iranian nuclear facility there, is hogwash. It absolutely holds no water whatsoever, and I hope everybody realizes that. So that's the reason why I had that first up, and we're going to come back to that in a few minutes in the chat, unless you guys find this other stuff I'm going to bring up of interest. I hate to cover it. You know I do. I hate to cover it. I gave up on Q back. I was letting go in December, but certainly by the 4th of January, I was done. But this stuff keeps swirling around, and so I have to address it. I've had some people ask me about it. Anybody who's keeping track of this thing knows that this current Q, let me put it that way, has said a statement in a post that no one should be making any profit off of the Q phenomenon. Well, philosophically, I can understand that, and I certainly had no intention of making money on it. I've lost subscribers because I don't go along with Q or some of the nonsense that's going on there, and this is another one. So my first question is, do you really think that if Q were somebody in the White House with the president, that they would say something like that? Or that back in January they would have attacked Cernovich, Posobiec, and me? Me? I mean, at least Posobiec and Cernovich have some real horsepower, but Potter, I'm going to tell you, okay, there are people that are so concerned about keeping this following going, and I'm just being honest with you guys, okay? You don't have to believe it. I'm not telling you can't follow Q. It's as good as the New York Times as far as I'm concerned, all right? So, I read the New York Times. It's like gambling, They always tell you about when they win, but they never tell you when they lose. But that's not really the direction I want to go here. The direction I want to go here is this. Do you really think that President Trump or somebody representing him is going to get that far down in the weeds when these other big things are going on? Do they really care if you're making money? That should be self-evident. There's an old capitalist statement, right? Let the buyer beware. Okay? No, I don't like these people making money off of dupes. Okay, and that's how that's not for me. That's the explanation going on in this argument that's happening on the internet. People have been duped, into giving money to these supposed decoders or reviewers of Q. Hey, some of them are friends of mine. I'm not gonna tell them they can't do that. And what the hell is Q concerned about it for? Even in the scriptures, and I talked about this once before. Paul, people came to him and said, "Hey, these people are teaching Christ over here. They're making this mistake and this mistake." And Paul says, "Hey, don't worry about it. At least they're teaching Christ." So all the arguments like Lionel when he says, "Who cares who Q is or whatever?" Because this information is good, and I disagree with him on that. But it's an intellectual disagreement. But the point is, it's another source of information. So why would Q be concerned about people? And he's warning us, "Oh, my poor little sheep, my poor little followers, look out, these people over here are going to take advantage of you." I've said for a long time, since I started getting suspicious in December, for a lot of the same reasons that other folks have, that Q had been compromised and that the original Q went away. Then we keep seeing these, "Oh, it looks like it's getting better," and then all of a sudden it drops off and a bunch of crap comes out. And, "Oh, it looks like it's getting better. Q's coming back. No, he isn't. New trip." No, all that crap. Look, I'll just say it this way, okay? Anytime you have a movement like that, you're going to get opportunists. And frankly, the way I look at it, it's immature on the Q part to attack people. He ought to just stay on subject matter, okay? I don't know how you feel about it, but I find that everybody got all upset, and Uni got upset. All these people, and he's naming Corsi, of course, and there are others who, their real goal was to make money, and that's wrong. And I'm going to tell you, Uni, you're right. That is wrong. I believe that just like you do, okay? But my point is, should Q be concerned about it when he's got bigger things to slice, supposedly? You see, there's an argument going. DeFango claims, and I'm not refuting him, that he and Cicada came up with the Q thing a year ago, okay, or thereabouts. There's this situation that I've talked about that Abel Danger, David Hawkins revealed, part of MI6, or it's not really part of MI6, but one of those corporations that do business with them, that has a thing called a social engineering protection appliance that they use on the internet for forecasting. It's a form of AI. We know about the old B, for instance. Okay, she's still on there, and I'm not attacking her, but she worked for the Washington Pundit that had ties to, people say, "Oh, yeah, just because they get donations from the Obama Foundation doesn't mean they're controlled by the Obama Foundation." Huh? The point is that they had control of the Twitter keys. We were able to see that by some things that happened on those tweets that came from B and some others back some time ago, and I'm not going to review that. But there's all this stuff swirling around Q. I have nothing to do with it. The only reason why, and I want nothing to do with it, because this is the kind of thing I warned about 6 months ago. The cultic behavior, the divide and conquer, people taking advantage of it for monetary reasons, so what? As long as people are discussing it, I don't really see the problem, but somebody has to make an issue of it. Why? Because somebody on this Q team is concerned that they might be losing influence. Do you really, really think that that's justified? Doesn't Q, if that's who they say they are, this association with Trump, which they're not, I'm not saying that, but that's the intimation. Do you really think that they would go that low? And it is low, in my opinion. So I just wanted to address that. There's this big fight now going on. There are people that'll swear, even with all this, will swear up and down that Q's practically a prophet of God. And then there are going to be those that have totally, gone away and want to attack Q. And I don't want to do either one. I just want to leave it alone. And that's basically what I've done. But I had to comment on this because a lot is happening on this that is just, it's going exactly where I anticipated it would. And it's a travesty. But consider the boards. Consider where all this was done. Consider intelligence operations, basically. It's disgusting. It's lies. It's deceits. Okay? Even the good guys, if you can find one. So this whole thing had all of the ingredients of a toilet bowl to begin with. The first 3-4 weeks, good stuff. But then it morphed. And that's why I have nothing to do with it. You're not going to see me have these expansive explanations of what Q's doing. Some of the people that are concerned that they've been accused by this Q group, I'm not going to name names, but apparently they've basically taken down their old Q posts, or they're not talking about it anymore, or maybe they'll see how things go for a little while and then slip back, kind of like Corsi did today. Look, Q's great. It's just like the New York Times. Have at it. Enjoy yourselves. But this fighting and these accusations and trying to accuse people, even the Q team itself, doing it off and on different things that have happened over the last month. I'm sorry. Somebody in Trump's team isn't going to stoop to that. They just aren't. Okay, I'm done with that. I already covered that Netanyahu might be actually getting baited by Trump. I hope that's what's going on. I hope Trump doesn't support this Zionist war machine. I know he's close to AIPAC and all of that. I know all of that in there, but I just got to call it out for what it is. I know too much about the history of the Middle East to believe anything that comes out of Netanyahu's mouth or the Zionist movement. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Good information. Next. And if anybody thinks I'm anti-Semitic, go read my book, The Crimson Thread, okay? I got to tell you a little story about that. It's about, to give you a little bit more information so that you know where I'm coming from. I have an entirely different viewpoint of first century history than most Christians do. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One is that I studied under Dr. Robert Eisenman, who helped me through a lot of the details of that time period. He wrote several books on the Dead Sea Scrolls. I should have brought one up today and shown you. I've done this before. But the fact of the matter is that this was a time of revolt in the first century. And all the people want to remember are the Beatitudes and the nice things that Jesus said. And the fact of the matter is that's all been whitewashed. Okay. Oh no, it's the infallible word of God. Well, okay, that's fine. But there's some things you got to understand. And the fact of the matter is that those people were fighting in imperial Rome. That's what it was about. And when you look at the history, you can tell that that's what was actually happening. So the fact of the matter is that, in my opinion, you can believe what you want, but in my opinion, when I look at the state of Israel today, and I'm not the only one that thinks this way. Orthodox Jews, the real ones, think this way too. That Israel, as the supposed restoration of Israel that God promised, the state of Israel is not it. They obey none of the laws of the Torah, very few as a matter of fact, and some are even outlawed. So they can't be, okay, by definition. It's plainly manifest they're not it. And this whole argument over the temple, on the Temple Mount, is not going to be what people think it is, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's another site, and David took the ark away from that site for political reasons. And that's where it's going to end up if it's ever built again, in my opinion. Okay. I wanted to get on James Kallstrom. He's a former assistant director of the FBI. He held McCabe's spot back a long time ago, back in the 90s. And there was an accident, a TWA airliner that was downed back then. I won't go into all the history other than the fact that we knew that it wasn't what the official story was claiming it to be. At first he even said that there was some evidence of some explosive residue, and then he backed away from that. Now, I talked about this with my Republican insider friend, and he agrees that Kallstrom was put in a bad spot back then, and like Powell with the vial, or with the weapons of mass destruction, the chemicals, we keep hearing this garbage, he was forced to go along with it, but he always regretted it. And that now Kallstrom has fully redeemed himself in standing up for Trump and exposing this coup that's going on in the intelligence community, the FBI, the DOJ, etc., against Trump. So in the description box below, I've already put it there. Now that's interesting. We're getting attacked. Oh, that's very nice. So something's going on here. I might lose you. But let me just say that you need to check the description box below and look at the link there. It's from True Pundit, who brought it out, and it's a little article there, and it also has a video of James Kallstrom being interviewed, okay? And it's very, very good, and he points it out just like we've been saying. And in that same vein, there is a former CIA agent, most of you know his name, Kevin Shipp, and he has been very vocal about what's going on as well, even more so than Kallstrom. But I think Kallstrom has a little more authenticity to him, just basically because he was public, where Shipp was, an operative. But at any rate, the whole idea is that both these guys are saying that it's gone to the point now where action has to be taken right now. Shipp is, he's on Twitter, he's going crazy. He's saying, we need to call this out now. We need to insist that arrests are made. We need to insist that action's taken. Trump can't wait any longer. It's got to happen now. It's got to happen now. And of course, we have the people that argue that Trump is a 4D chess player. And even if he is, I got to tell you, I have to agree with Shipp and I have to agree with Kallstrom. The action against these criminals needs to be taken now. Now, Kallstrom did say, at least I think it was Kallstrom, that he didn't see actually anything probably happening until after the midterm elections. Wow, that's really risky. I can understand why he's saying that, but I consider that to be a very, very dangerous thing. And I think anybody who... Oh, shoot. Yeah. I may have lost you. I hope you're still there. Hold on just a minute. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting attacked. Right now, I'm getting attacked. So I hope I still have you. Apparently, I do. Let me double check here and make sure. Let me see if I can move this stuff out of the way. It's definitely trying to interfere with my transmission. Isn't that just peachy? Let me see if I can move to the... Tell me in the chat, guys. Have you still got me? The chat seems to be running. Still here, still here. Man, this is bad. It's a... the thread is a... some type of an injection power script. Anyway, it's attacking me right now, so it's apparently trying to get on. So I might lose you, but it's happening right now. So anyway, getting back to the story here then. So I'm still calling for, as I have all along, that Trump needs to go after these people. He needs to start arresting them. And I realize that people want to have all the groundwork laid so that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and all that. Let me tell you something. I don't believe we can wait that long. I really don't. And apparently Shipp and Kallstrom agree with me on that, okay? Okay, then I'll end on the Sergeant report. This was interesting, and if anything's going to get me cut off today, it's probably going to be this. The Sergeant report. I didn't get the name of it, but you can go look at it. He talks about, he was on Twitter today, but I think he mentioned it on his actual YouTube channel. He reports that a Disney character, the Chief Zephyr, I guess is the character in the show, Ilana de Avalor. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. My handwriting is so atrocious you'd have to try to read it yourself. I can't even read my own handwriting. I was supposed to go to medical school. My handwriting fit, but my brain wasn't quite up to the task in the biochemistry department. Did well at everything else, but not that. But at any rate, so this Disney character apparently has the boy love pedophile symbol all over it. I'm just mentioning it because this stuff is in our face all the time now, and it's getting more and more dangerous as far as I'm concerned. We see the human sex trafficking. They went after Rainier and they went after Mac, but there are many, many more. We're still at that middle level, and these people at the top they want this war to take off all the spotlight off of them, so that they can continue in their evil designs, which is the destruction of God's creation, especially mankind. And I've talked about that for a long time too. Okay. Last but not least, I got to go to my Bible. I was talking to my Republican insider friend last night, and he talked about, I won't tell you the background story, but that there was this guy who read Corinthians chapter 13, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 to him. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter here. I've alluded to it before. There are these people out there who demand that you follow their dogma under some threat of hellfire and damnation if you don't accept certain things. And they cite supposed scripture to do that, and I talk about the euphemisms of the time, that they don't understand those euphemisms, and they try to apply their current day understandings of things to what was being said 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. And it's a gross injustice. But it's right in here. And I wanted to bring up chapter 13 again. I won't read the whole thing, but just go back and look at it. Remember, faith can fail. So trying to convert somebody to your faith or your dogma, which is what faith becomes when you become autocratic about it. If you're secure in your own faith, you don't have to have somebody else convert to make you feel better as far as validating your beliefs. And people say, no, I just love them, I want them to change. If you love them, you'll allow your example to teach them. You're not going to force them under some threat to change, because the awe of discovery is what really needs to happen with them, not obedience for mere survival. So go back and read 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It talks about faith can fail, hope can fail, but charity, our love for one another, never does fail. And we need to always fall back on that on every circumstance. Things are going to get even more ugly here. So if we can keep that forefront in our cerebral cortex, maybe we'll make it through. Okay. Well, let's see what we've got going on. I'm sorry, like I said, I'm traveling, so I don't have my normal setup here, so this is really hard for me to see, but let me see if I can look at it right here. Okay, I'm in the chat. Jesus will crush Zionism. Well, the Spirit of Christ certainly will. I'm still very cautious about, and I've talked about it before, and maybe I should just let it go with what you're saying there, Gerald. Because the Spirit of Christ is definitely not Zionism. It really isn't. And I do hope that the personage of Jesus Christ comes and does something, but I think his interpretation of things would be even more so that we become like him, because that's the first century euphemism. You take somebody's name upon yourself, you become like them. And I've talked about that scripture before, that Jesus, finding himself in the form of God, thought it not robbery to make himself equal to God, and that we are joint heirs with Christ. You got all that? The point is, let's have charity. Okay? The awakening, the spirit of the awakening, the spirit of the truth, which is the Spirit of Christ, that can crush Zionism, but it's not going to be free. It's going to be costly. I hope he does come back and fight this battle. I'm sick and tired of seeing my brothers and sisters slaughtered by this cabal. Okay, Jesus was a Jew. Actually, he was only a Jew by nationality. Who's saying this, Gerald? Gerald, that's one of the problems. See, he was a Jew like you're an American or wherever you live. If you live in the United States, Sparza, you're probably Hispanic origin. That's what you are. Let's say you're Catholic. I don't know that you are, but let's just say that you are. You live in America, you're called an American. Okay, so they were called Jews because they lived in Judea. They weren't necessarily Jews. Now there are two different, here we go on a scriptural study again, but there are two different genealogies for Jesus, okay, in the New Testament, and they don't match. That's number one. Number two, there's a difference between the different messiahs that are talked about in the Old Testament that Jesus was supposed to be, the fulfillment of that prophecy. And all I'll say to you is this, is that it's in all likelihood that Jesus was not, okay, a Udahite. All likelihood. He certainly was not a Jew in that common vernacular. Only that he was a Judean, which was another way of saying Jew in the first century. Okay, but he wasn't really. He was actually from the northern part of that country. But we'll get into that some other time. People who read my book or who go back and look at my religion series, it's on this channel. It's underneath a playlist. That kind of explains some of it. There's more to it than that, but that pretty much explains it. Okay, so you might want to go look at that. And there are a lot of other things I could talk about, but not today. Yeah, he was from the northern tribes. Actually, you're right. And they'll say, no, all of them left. No, they didn't. A lot of them came back later. But that's another story. We don't want to get into it here. Rabbi just means teacher. Okay, that's all it means. Okay. Yeah, Krogrog Grogo, that's an interesting one. This is not the cabal. The USA has done all this death around the world. You talk like the Germans after World War II. It was not us. We did not know. I can't disagree with you. Yeah, you know, when you go along with an evil itinerary, an evil agenda, and you don't think critically, even God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? Yeah, going along with these things is bad. And yes, I can't disagree with you. But the fact of the matter is that God will hold the leaders ultimately responsible. Not saying that, you know, us lowly folks who went along with this horrible program aren't going to suffer, because it says, you know, my people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. And we're trying to wake people up. We've got to rise up above this sinister cabal, as you call it, that seeks total war, total destruction for its own power. And it really is the Spirit of God, the only thing that will overcome that. And I don't mean the God of vengeance. Yeah. That's another story. Bob Boscia, are we supposed to trust Netanyahu? The method seemed suspect yesterday. He was the one that said invading Iraq No, I have never trusted Netanyahu. And I think this whole thing, do you really think that the Israeli, I mean, the Mossad's pretty good, okay? Their intelligence apparatus is pretty good, but do you really think they got in and stole all that stuff? I think we're seeing some old documents from way back. Again, do I trust Iran? No, but I also don't trust Saudi Arabia, and I sure as hell don't trust the presently constituted state of Israel as a politic. I don't, and certainly not Netanyahu. So no, I'm just really hoping that Trump has his finger on this and really knows what's going on here and doesn't go along with what they're trying to accomplish here. Again, I'm not saying that Iran isn't a problem, but the Persian people as a whole are pretty good, and they don't deserve the bad. You have Zoroastrian, and I said this the other day, you have Zoroastrians there, you have Jews, you have Christians. It's very similar to Syria in a lot of ways. Oh yeah, the Khomeini's rule, the Ayatollahs rule with an iron fist. Yeah, that's true, and they need to go away. But why do we keep pointing fingers at Iran when Saudi Arabia has done so many terrible things? Well, the reason is because Iran's the underbelly of Russia, and the real end result that they want to do is the Trotskyites, the neocons, are after Russia. Pretty simple, actually. All you got to do is look at a map. Have you any knowledge of a decryption method related to ciphering the Bible? Neo Butterfly Meadow. Yeah, I do, actually. But it's inherent in the letters and words themselves. As Paul said, the Bible is not of any, the scriptures are of no private interpretation. And of course, everybody thinks that means their interpretation is okay, that kind of thing. No, the Bible interprets itself. The Hebrew interprets itself. If you understand Hebrew, if you understand the meanings of the letters and the words, and the different techniques that the prophets and the scribes used in writing the scripture, you understand that the interpretation is in the language itself, illustrative, in actual ideograms, in actual symbols. The letters themselves are the symbols, and so that interpretation is how it works, and there are at least 5 levels called pardes. Okay? And that was the paradise that Jesus was referring to when he was on the cross. But that, along with mansions, in my house are many mansions. It has to do with the old form of prophesying, which used a system called Heckalot, which after the loss of the ritual implements of Moses and the ashes of the red heifer, a lot of you are going, what the hell are you talking about? When all that was lost actually it was already lost pretty much by Jesus' time. But it moved, certainly after the destruction of the Second Temple, into a thing called Kabbalah. And people think that that's black magic and bad. Well, just like anything else, it can be used for bad things. But really, Kabbalah was nothing more than applying the letters and the words and doing dissections and intersections and permutations of the letters. It was but since they couldn't use the divine names of God anymore without purification, type of purification they need, they turned just to the dividing of the Word of God by using the principles of Kabbalah. Again, not throwing hexes and all that stuff that you see today. This was a genuine study of the language, okay, and getting understanding through that, through meditation and through primarily through meditation. Okay. What? Liz Jean Williams, the Potters aren't even in the U.S., but they use false accents to pander their larger audience. What? Well, I tell you, there's some talk about weird ideas. No, that's totally wrong. Okay, convention and JSOC, we called them shadow government, not deep state. Oh, okay, good. Judas Lamb could mention that in the Joint Services in JSOC, Special Operations Command, we called them shadow government, not deep state. It sounds like we're talking about the same thing. We are. And a lot of it's semantics, and I apologize for that because now we're even getting into more detail. We're finding out more about like the SES and Serco and those types of things. and there's a lot of overlap in those things. They're different in some ways, and there's overlap in others. But basically, I think we can call them either shadow government or deep state. I think either works. Just basically for general conversation purposes. But I see your point. You're right. Sorry, I meant the bakers. Oh, I was saying the Potters. What do you mean? Yeah. That was brought out by Uni Rock last night, and we've kind of known about it anyway. I actually interviewed Baruch the Scribe once, and I could tell you a lot of things more about that. But basically, you're correct. Yeah, apparently they're not in the U.S. That's true. Okay. Spirit of Truth, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How long have we been going? 45 minutes is all. That's good. Okay, let me see if I can get some more questions here, because I don't, this is a good day to do this. I do have to get going here pretty soon, but I wanted to get this done this morning because I don't know when I'll be able to get around to it again. Hallelujah. And I can see, why do you really want to take on all that in you own name? You're probably talking about, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about, sorry. I really like Unirock, said Liza Jean Williams. Yeah, he's got his own style, and it's a good one. I like it too. Oh, did I, Bob? Okay. Well, I'm glad I did. Well, my first name is actually Royston. And so, people look at that and they go, Ralston, like Ralston Purina, or I've been called Royst, Royce. Yeah, so, I understand what that's like, but, you kind of let it roll off your back. But that was just lucky that I did it right. So thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. Where are you headed out to, Lieutenant Colonel? Spirit of Truth? Well, I'm doing a number of things, actually. Nothing really important. Frankly, I just needed a break. This is serious stuff when you deal with it day in and day out, and you can see I still don't leave it alone. You have to get balanced, and I can't even cover all the crazy things that have happened in the last 40 years, but certainly in the last 10. And so I'm just trying to reset a little bit. But I try not to forget about you all either. Okay? All right. Marcia Jacks, I have been given orders to report again for domestic training for FEMA. Yeah. I would like to think that all that's against the leftist Marxists, but it depends. And this is again why I'm concerned that Trump is trying to cross his T's and dot his I's to the point where he loses his initiative. But neither you or I are in control of this at this point, so we just have to do my mantra: prep, pray, and stay out of the way. Keep your situational awareness. And Marcia, if you can find it in your heart, if you can risk it, try to notify people as best you can about what you see. And I know how dangerous that is. Believe me, I do. Thank you. Oh, I got to mention this because this is definitely true. I'm glad you brought it up. Our phone. John Lamb, the Bundy Ranch activist, is in critical condition after a serious accident Monday. Appears to be a result of foul play. John Lamb covered the Bundy trial. He was there every day. He became good friends with a friend of mine, Brand Thornton. Now, Brand and I were at Bundy Ranch in 2014, as most of you know. We were there on the ground. And I saw firsthand, from the perspective of a military officer and a law enforcement officer, how utter tyranny had progressed to such a detestable state. What the BLM, the DOJ, the FBI, etc. Even the Las Vegas Police Department, even though they weren't directly involved, they should have actually, and they finally did. One of their deputies finally told the BLM to leave. But the point is, this was a war upon Americans, and it was designed to be another Waco. No doubt about it. Use military munitions against Americans. And yet Trump's worried about fake gas attacks again, happening in Syria. What about Waco here? They use CS gas on women and children. They say, well, law enforcement uses that. In enclosed places, it's as deadly as chlorine gas. So anyway, yes, John Lamb, I think we can credit him by putting out a lot of the information that he did with educating the public on what had happened at Bundy Ranch and Malheur for that matter, but basically at Bundy Ranch. Fantastic hero as far as I'm concerned. And what happened was he was, I don't know all the details. I haven't gotten into the details, but he was apparently in a very severe accident involving a semi-truck and is in serious condition. And the last I heard, they're not sure he's going to make it. So if you would, pray for John Lamb and his family. They're very, very good people. And I might use this opportunity to tell you that there was a hit list that the FBI tried to hide, but it was brought out by the BLM agent who actually can be credited with showing that the Department of Justice and the FBI and the BLM were hiding exculpatory evidence. In other words, evidence that would show the innocence of the Bundys and their followers, which is why the case was finally dismissed. But the hit list remains because there are a lot of reasons for that. And I kind of mentioned some the other day, but I'll mention them here again today in passing. The first is that the hit list contains people who were at Bundy Ranch, may not have even been carrying weapons, exercising their First or their Second Amendment, but were outspoken. And my friend Brand was like number 25 on the list. I don't know that I was on it, although there were a lot of crazy things going on at the time and up to about 6 months ago. But definitely they wanted to take these people out because, number one, we had embarrassed them. Number two, we knew what they were up to. Number three, we had evidence against them, and we could keep talking about it. And they don't like that. They want to silence anything but the official narrative, like in Las Vegas, right? Killing the witnesses there. See, that kind of a thing. And so Brand, let's see, what happened to me was somebody took my, this was several months back, last fall. Somebody took the lug nuts off of my front right wheel. They took one off completely, and the others were so loose, I didn't really notice it at first, and the wheel actually buckled and broke as I was driving down the road. If I'd been going any faster, it would have been a bad situation. So that happened. Brand Thornton was broadsided by if I remember correctly, it was a Cadillac Escalade, broadsided in his vehicle, almost killed him. This was last fall, about a week or two after the situation with me and my lug nuts. Of course, they reported that to the Las Vegas Police Department. Nothing happened. They never found the vehicle, nothing. No license plates, no nothing. Well, who uses Cadillac Escalades? And it was a hit and run, okay? Well, now, and we've had some other things that have happened as well to other people that were there at Bundy Ranch and were outspoken. Because this was a Clinton, Reed, New World Order, deep state operation to subjugate the people and to steal their resources, which is exactly the thing that Trump attacked in his December 21st executive order. Remember, those who are trying to take our resources from the American people, not just human trafficking and all that, but the resources, which all of that fell under. So the DOJ, the FBI, and the BLM all were conspiring to do exactly what Trump is attacking in his 21 December executive order. All of them should be arrested. All of the agents who took part in the Bundy Ranch situation, all of them should be at least detained and questioned as to their culpability, some of the illegal things they did, which you can see on some of their own video where they were talking about lethal lines and all that. Lethal lines mean they were going to kill, men, women, and children, armed or not. Some of the other things that happened, the illegal arrest and detention of Davy Bundy, for instance, and the way they beat him up. There were all kinds of things that happened there that they should be held accountable for. Why aren't they? This is what I mean. Trump needs to go after them because this is going to keep happening if these criminals, I'm not even going to call them traitors, even though in some instances they could be considered treasonous, but certainly criminals, they need to be punished. And told that if anybody ever does these things like at Waco or Bundy Ranch, if they ever do that again, they will face at least criminal charges and possibly, depending on circumstances, as much as execution if they're found guilty. This is getting outrageous. A badge and a gun doesn't make you, doesn't free you of your culpability, no matter what they try to say legally, and it just aggravates me no end. But at any rate. So, yeah, the kill list is still there, and apparently John Lamb was on it. I don't know. It could have just been a regular accident. I don't know. But the word is that there was foul play involved. Who knows? But it is a little odd. It's sort of like, the people around the JFK assassination all dying, in weird circumstances, or around the Clintons. You see so much of this, and then you start saying, this is beyond the realm of coincidence. It's against the odds. So I don't know all the details, but regardless of the situation, please pray for John Lamb and his family. Thank you very much. Bill McCabe, nice shirt and tie. Well, I try to, especially with this thing, I figured I got to do something to take their mind off of it, right? Okay, yeah. All right, what time is it? 56 minutes. Well, we've been going for almost an hour. I guess we can call it off here. Like I said, I got to get going anyway. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate everything that you do. I'm glad you take care of the trolls on there for me. That's really nice of you. I try not to address them, of course, and not to feed them. Isaac Green got on me one day. He said, "Roy, stop feeding the trolls," because I was bantering with one. But that was a game at that point. I selected that one for a reason. But yeah, you're right. You shouldn't do that. Keep in mind that the accusations against those who may make money off of the Q posts because of their Patreons or their however they make money off of that doesn't make them evil. Okay, it doesn't. I wouldn't do it. I haven't done it, but that doesn't make them evil. There's no way that I can look at Isaac Green, Jordan Sather. I know a lot of things about Jerome Corsi, but even him under these situations, I do see there's some problems between Corsi and the board. And the bakers and that kind of thing. I can see some problems there, which I warned about early on, especially after Q was compromised, the original one. But at any rate, that just because people are doing those things like Jordan Sather, Isaac Green, etc., doesn't make them bad. I would hope, and I've cautioned them. I've cautioned everybody that the Q phenomenon had some very bad attributes to it that could sneak up and bite us in the butt, and that's what's happened. Okay, so just be aware of that, and keep looking at Isaac Green and Jordan Sather. Jordan Sather, especially, he gets into so many other things, UFOs and space and CERN, and he just touches a lot of good things. So. Don't buy into the idea that just because somebody was making some money off of the Q posts amongst other things that they do, that they're bad, because that's not necessarily the case. What's bad is that I see this whole thing being used to truly, people will say because I have questions about Q that I'm dividing and that I'm causing disagreement and all that. Hey, strong, good debate isn't blasphemy, okay? It isn't betrayal. It isn't divisive. What's divisive is when you attack people like Q just did. That's divisive. And you're seeing it happen. And I will maintain that if Q, the current Q, represents Trump, that doesn't make any sense that they're lowering themselves to that level. There are other ways to call people out than attacking them for that. But frankly, it's like the substituting, now that they're trying to say that they were really after the nukes in Syria because they got caught on the chemical thing, knowing that was a false flag, that was baloney. So they moved over to the nuke thing. That's what I think happened here. Well, this whole thing with Q has done a lot of the same type of thing. So don't get myopic. Even Lionel will tell you, yeah, and I'm telling you, you can go look at Q. I don't care. But don't get so myopic that you don't look and see what else is going on, because Q definitely has a specific focus. And it keeps you away from things like 5G, which we've talked about, vaccines, even immigration. There really isn't that much on immigration on there. There are other things that are going on, and we need to keep those in the forefront. Most importantly, we must, as Kallstrom and Kevin Shipp, as James Kallstrom and Kevin Shipp, and many people like myself, and even Anthony Schaefer have said, Trump, you might be trying to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure everything is set up right, but you're losing the initiative, Mr. President. You have to start taking out these people. You must. They're gaining strength. They're not losing strength. They're gaining strength. You've got to do something about that. At the very least, Clapper, Comey, McCabe, Brennan, at least those four should be in jail right now. At the very minimum, those four should be in jail now, and also any of those pedophiles that can be verified up the line. And I know that the president has that information, and he can't keep waiting. He cannot keep waiting. Well, who are you, Roy, to tell the president? I'm not the only one. I look at this from a military tactical point of view, and I see some real problems with him moving forward unless he takes out these very dangerous enemies. Okay. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high alert. This is a very, very sticky, difficult time. Deception everywhere, as I've always said. Be aware of manipulators, and people accuse me of being manipulated. It's one thing to give your opinion about something, and it's another thing to be in a position of power, okay, or pseudo power, and I won't define it any better than that, and influence people in mass. Big difference, okay, and for purposes that aren't clear cut. God bless you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And may God bless President Trump in all his righteous endeavors. And may the spirit of discernment distill upon him as the dews from heaven, and that he may discern what is the correct thing to do and have the courage to accomplish it. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time out here.